What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another mint on card market update for vintage Kenner Star Wars figures. And we've got lots of good ones in here, mainly later card backs. I've got a few Empire Strikes Back, some Return of the Jedi, and a lot of Power of the Force that also last 17 figures. So the prices were kind of all over the map. There were some good deals, but some of the buy it nows went for big money, as you'd expect for some of the rarities that I'm going to show you here. And we're going to start off with a big one. This one was a Japanese Takara Ben Kenobi 12 back, and he is a character that you don't see too much on these Takara 12 backs. You see a lot of Darth Vaders out there and a lot of Stormtroopers, but old Ben Kenobi, it's pretty tough to find him with that Japanese Takara sticker on the front there, but this one looked to be in pretty good condition. A little bit of veining by the hang tab, but man, what a beauty. Look at that blister there. It looks like it's got one ding in the upper right-hand corner, but that was a stunner. And again, a character you don't see very much on this particular card back. That one sold in a buy it now situation for $1,100. As you'd expect, that was kind of an expected sale, just given that, you know, I don't remember the last time I've seen this particular character on that card back. Here was another beauty. This one was a transition cart for the Empire Strikes Back for Princess Leia Organa. This one was graded AFA 80, 80, 85, 85 were the subscores. And so this is a really nice example with a crystal clear blister. This one sold over in the UK for 1,450 pounds, which is almost 1,800 US dollars. Now, where do I think this one would sell in an auction? I don't know. It's hard to say. I gave it some thought. And I've seen some of the later ESB card backs for Princess Leia sell in that $1,100 to $1,200 range, maybe $1,300. But this is the transition card where only the first 21 figures appeared on this card back for the Bosk mail-away, the Secret Star Wars action figure. So I can understand why it sold for maybe a little bit of a premium versus some of the later ESB card backs. But I don't think it would hit that number in an auction, but I bet it would have come pretty close, probably $1,500-$1,600. But that was a stunner. Next up was a mint in sealed box Wampa. This one was graded CAS 80, and so here is the grading label on that one. And that one sold for $875. Big number relative to where these can sell ungraded. I've seen them sell ungraded kind of $450 to $550, but this one certainly was a nice example with absolutely no crease on that flap there. So $875 did take that one home. Here was a 32 back AIG 88 graded CAS 75 plus, and I was curious to see where this one would sell, because I have this exact same card back in an AFA 75 plus. I don't think mine is unpunched though. I can't remember. I didn't go look at it before I pulled this one up, but this one looks, to me anyway, it looks a little bit better than the one I have in my collection. Mine's got a little bit of card curl. It's got a little bit of a kind of a litho tear on the back of the card. This one seemed to be kind of harshly graded, in my opinion, just looking at it. But that one sold for $570. 38 bids plus $11 shipping. And as a reference point, I bought mine many years ago, and I think I paid $375 for mine. So this is not the debut card. The debut card is the 31 back. But this 32A is certainly desirable, given that it has, you know, it's an offerless card, unpunched, clear blister. It was a stunner. So $570 took that home. Here was a beautiful Kenner Canada, and this one is the 41 back, a survival kit offer on the Kenner Canada card back. It did have a big tear on the back, as you can see there, but I wanted to show it because it's a foreign card back, and you know, they don't pop up terribly much, and it's a pretty significant difference with how that offer sticker looks with the French language there on it, and it looks like it had some kind of sticker residue going on. So this one was definitely not a gradable example, but if you're into the Kenner Canada card backs, this would make for a nice display piece, especially from the front, given that it doesn't have any tears like it does on the back there. But that one still sold for $338, despite all of those pretty major flaws on it. So that just shows you how desirable some of those Kenner Canada card backs are. Next up, this one was one I sent out in a buy it now alert to my Patreon supporters, and I was curious to see how long it would last, and it did not last too much longer after that. So I hope that one of y'all picked it up. But this was the 65 back D AT-AT driver on the Palatoy card back, and this is not a Toy Tony. This one has the tri-logo blister, as you can see there, and fairly recently graded as well. So 75 for the card, blister 80, figure 85. But this one was a nice example, punch example, and to me, I was like, wow, that's a pretty good deal. It was listed for 310 pounds, which is 380 US dollars, especially if you were in the UK. If you bought this, I thought that was a good deal because obviously we got to pay the global shipping program. It did sell in a make an offer situation for 275 pounds, which is 338 US dollars. So even if you had bought it in the US, you're still talking 390 bucks for a UKG 80%. Beautiful example, AT-AT driver. I thought that's worth every penny, and I was not surprised that it sold after I sent out that buy it now alert. There was already like 17 watchers within about, a day or so. So it did sell very quickly thereafter. If you happen to be a Patreon supporter and you bought it, congratulations. I hope that you enjoy it. Another AT-AT driver. This one was from LJ's Card Shop, and I've got a couple of awesome examples that he sold. The first one is this 41 back C offerless AT-AT driver graded AFA 80. 80, 80, 85 were the sub scores. Crystal clear blister, unpunched, no price sticker. Beauty. And this one sold for 570 US dollars. 44 bids on that one, plus $20. So $20 shipping. So you're talking about 600 bucks for a non-punched, offerless AT-AT driver. That's definitely one I'd like to have to add to my collection at some point, but was not meant to be these days. I'm kind of saving up right now. I'm saving up for a big comic book. I was curious to see where this one would sell. This is a main character on a Revenge of the Jedi proof card, but it's a lower grade. It's a 70 plus grade from AFA. And we all know that this same seller has had a bunch of awesome proof cards here lately. But given that it was a 70 plus grade, I was like, well, maybe it stays low. I don't know. I was thinking maybe it might go for $1,000, even though it is Yoda. And he's a very desirable character. Any of the main characters on these revenge proofs, they usually go for big money. But despite it still being a 70 plus grade, it still almost sold for $2,000, $1,950 in an auction, 31 bids plus $30 shipping. So it just shows you how expensive they are. Now, I would think in an AFA 85 or 90, wow, I would hate to think what it would sell for. I would think at least $3,000, at least. It would probably be closer to $4,000 for an AFA 90 example for Yoda, if not more. I mean, I don't know Revenge of the Proofs that well in terms of how much they go for some of the main characters. But even though it was a 70 plus, it still sold for almost $2,000. Next up was another Kenner Canada. This was a Kenner Canada for Leia in her combat poncho, crystal clear blister, ? It looks like it might have some slight yellowing to it since grading, but if it is, it's very faint. It might just be shadows there, but beautiful example, punched example, AFA 85, 85, 85, 90 were the sub scores. And this one sold in an auction for 350 US dollars plus $20 shipping. Pretty good price there. Next up was a Wicket. Now, this Wicket has very light yellowing, not much at all. And that's kind of the abnormal situation for Wickets. Usually Wickets get heavily yellowed, especially, when you're talking about the US kind of 77 backs. Those always yellow. This one also had 2 price stickers plus the Boba Fett Power of the Force coin mail-away offer. It was partially unpunched with that SKU sticker cover up in the upper left. And for those of you curious as to what that means, this sticker in the upper left, during these, I think 77, 65 backs, somewhere in there, Kenner moved over to a different SKU number. And so they already had some in stock that they've already produced and manufactured and sealed and all that. So they just slapped this little black sticker in the upper left-hand corner to cover up the old SKU. So that's all that is. But, it wasn't perfect, but it was in pretty good shape, probably about 75 plus 80 grade, and pretty good shape overall. But that one sold $273.88 plus $855 shipping. Pretty decent deal, though, on a nice-looking Wicket. Next up was an AFA graded clear blister Lando Skiff Guard, graded AFA 80, 65 back B. So this one was a clear blister, straight 80s for the sub scores, unpunched. That one sold for $179, $178.49 plus $12.45 shipping. That's a really good deal, given that it was a clear blister. Usually, Lando skiffs, they can yellow. I think I've got a 79 back, though, that is a clear blister. But this 65 back B, that's a pretty good deal. $178. That's less than what I paid several years ago for my 79 back AFA. I think it's an AFA 80 clear blister. So good deal on that one. Now let's dig into some last 17s. All of these are Power the Force figures. First of all, we've got kind of a tatty blister on, it was cracked blister actually, for the Imperial Gunner, but I wanted to show you kind of a wide range of prices. So I pulled up multiple sales for a lot of these last 17. This one sold, even though it was a cracked blister, it still sold for $300 plus $12.99 shipping. Big sticker there on the right-hand side. Here was another one that was mint on card with no crack to the blister. It looks like it's got scratches on it, but it's really, I think, just dust on the card back. Just take a white kind of, take like a wipe of some sort, with no chemicals on it, just water, and I think you can get off a lot of that dust that's on that card back. But pretty decent shape. It did have some dings to the blister. That one sold for $305. So this one had a cracked blister for $300. This one sold for $305 with no cracks to the blister. And now let's dig into some Luke Skywalker in his battle poncho. This one was an unpunched example, really clean card. And maybe the blister had some dings at the very top. Maybe not. It might just be a reflection there. But pretty clean card, unpunched, with that kind of UFO punch tab there. But here's the back of the card. Very, very clean. $321.69. I mean, that to me seems like a fantastic deal for a fairly lightly yellowed Luke Skywalker battle poncho, unpunched, and in really good shape. Here was a Lando Calrissian unpunched. This one sold for $315. I thought that was a pretty fair deal. A-Wing Pilot, another unpunched example. It did have a crease in the upper right-hand corner. Just some light wear here and there to it, but it looks like maybe, just maybe, it does. It's got a cracked blister, so keep that in mind with some of these lower-priced Power of the Force that are at auction. And I'm sure, he definitely, obviously disclosed it. Some of them don't, though, okay? So I think the reason I pulled up a lot of these, now that I'm looking back at it, I pulled them up, and then I didn't make the video for a few hours, and then I forgot why I pulled them up. And I think the reason I did is because we talk about this all the time with Power of the Force. These blisters are super brittle once they yellow. And so this seller and the other seller, they were kind enough to kind of show in detail that, yeah, it's a cracked blister. It is what it is. And it's at auction starting at $1. So take it or leave it. But a lot of sellers, they'll just show you like a front view and a back view, and that's it. And you got to be careful on those. If you're thinking about buying one where there's only a couple of photos, make sure you reach out to the sellers and say, hey, can I get some more photos? And I've done that before in the past with past purchases for me. And when they don't respond at all, it means they're probably hiding something. Move along. Delete it and move along. You know what I mean? And so this one, luckily, the seller was kind enough to disclose that it had some cracks to the blister. It still sold for $256.52. That's about the going rate for a loose A-Wing Pilot complete. So you're not paying that much more, and it displays nicely if you want to put it in like an acrylic case of some sort. Here's another one. This one had some heavy wear to it, but according to the photos, I don't think this one had any cracks to the blister. Just some dings here and there, but he was kind enough to show the waffle pattern and things like that. So this one sold for $310 plus $15 shipping. So appropriately, it sold for a little bit more than the cracked blister, which was probably in better condition for the card, but the blister obviously was cracked, versus this one had no crack to the blister, but it had some wear to the card. Several different EV99 sold. This one had very heavy wear to the top of the card, but no cracks to the blister that I could tell. That one sold for $373, which seems a little high to me. That's, I know that a loose near mint plus EV99 sells for about that, so maybe it's not. I don't know. Here was another one that was unpunched with a Toys R Us price sticker that was in better shape that sold for $356. So this one sold for $372.55. This one sold for $356. I mean, to me, I think you just got to be patient on some of these because there's so many of them out there. Here was another one that sold for $391 that was in much better shape. So to me, looking at it, this one seems like an overpay at $372.55, whereas this one actually sold for less and was in better shape for $356. And this one was probably even in better shape that sold for $391. So just be patient, especially for these last 17. I know that there's a premium right now for last 17. It just seems like even despite the kind of market downturn in prices, people are willing to pay up for last 17 right now in good shape. And then finally, here was an Amanamon that was unpunched, and it looked very good, you know, really clean. And it did have a price sticker in the upper right-hand corner, unpunched, no cracks that I could tell. So this one was very clean. This one would probably grade out at about an 80 grade. But anyway, that one sold for $531. So, you know, that's not terribly surprising. I know that Chris just sold a CAS 80 for about $600. It might have been even a 75 grade for Amanaman on the Rogue 5 Toys sales page. So $531, you know, it's about right, I suppose, for eBay. You're going to pay a little bit of a premium for some of these that go at auction. But anyway, I just wanted to include some kind of later card backs mostly in this video, although there were certainly some stunners in this batch with the Takara Japanese Obi-Wan that sold for $1,100, and then this transition Princess Leia Organa AFA 80 that sold for $1,777 US dollars. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.